In November 1970, the state of Oregon strapped half a ton of dynamite to a dead whale and pushed the plunger in front of a live audience. This was not an accident. This was the plan. It was designed by engineers, on purpose, with confidence. The whale went up. Then the whale came back down, on everything, including a brand new car whose owner had just bought it during a dealership promotion called Get a Whale of a Deal. Everything I just said is true. All of it is on film, and it gets stupider from here. On November 9th, 1970, a sperm whale washed up on the beach just south of Florence, Oregon. It was 45 feet long. It weighed 8 tons, and it was extremely dead. It had been dead for a while, actually, and it was starting to advertise that fact to the whole town. Dead whales wash up on beaches all the time. Normally, this is a problem for wildlife people or the ocean or nobody. But Oregon had a law. Its beaches were legally classified as state highways, which meant this whale was now legally a road obstruction. So the whale became the official responsibility of the Oregon State Highway Division. The pothole people, the men who painted the lines on Route 101, were now in the whale removal business. The Highway Division looked at its options. Option 1, bury it. Except the tide comes in every day, and a buried whale on a beach has a habit of unburying itself. Nobody wanted the whale to keep coming back like a horror movie. Option 2, cut it up and haul it away. Nobody volunteered for that one. Option 3, burning. 8 tons of wet whale does not burn. Next, which left option 4, dynamite. The theory was simple. Blast the whale into pieces small enough that seagulls and crabs would eat the leftovers. That was the plan. The load-bearing part of this state engineering project was seagulls. The man in charge was George Thornton, assistant district engineer. Why was the assistant running the largest whale demolition in state history? Because his boss had gone hunting. That is the real reason. It's in the record. He went hunting. The local news showed up, a young reporter named Paul Linman and his cameraman Doug Brazil. Linman asked Thornton the obvious question, "Are you sure this will work?" Thornton said he was confident. He also admitted he wasn't sure how much dynamite you need for a whale because nobody had ever needed to know. There was no manual. He checked. But there was one man on that beach who did know. A local businessman named Walter Umenhofer. Umenhofer had explosives training from his military service. He looked at the whale, looked at the dynamite, and got nervous. He told Thornton, "You either need way less, about 20 sticks, 8 pounds, just enough to nudge it into the sea, or way, way more, enough to actually vaporize it. Anything in between just redistributes the whale." Thornton listened politely and then ordered half a ton, 20 cases, 1,000 pounds, roughly 120 times what the bomb expert recommended. Umenhofer did the only sensible thing left. He walked away from the whale and parked his brand-new Oldsmobile at what he assumed was a safe distance. He had just bought that car during the Get a Whale of a Deal sale. Remember that. The universe certainly did. November the 12th, 1970. 3:45 in the afternoon. The crew stacked all 20 cases on the side of the whale facing land, so the blast would push the whale out toward the ocean. In theory, about 75 spectators gathered on the dunes a quarter of a mile back, which everyone agreed was a safe distance. Some of them brought their kids. It was a fun local event. Come watch the government blow up a whale. The cameras rolled. The countdown started. And at 3:45 p.m., George Thornton blew up the whale. For one glorious second it worked. A mushroom cloud of sand and whale rose over the beach, and the crowd cheered. On the news film, you can hear the exact moment the cheering changes into something else, because the whale, having gone up, was now coming back down. Blubber rained down over everything within 800 feet. One witness described it as a blubber snowstorm. The spectators, who had been cheering, were now sprinting. Grown adults were running serpentine down a public beach, dodging falling whale. Nobody was hit. Not one person. The whale had other plans. Because a quarter of a mile away, in a parking lot everyone believed was safe, sat one brand-new Oldsmobile 88. You know whose. A slab of blubber the size of a coffee table, weighing about 300 pounds, had been launched a quarter of a mile, and it landed directly on the roof. Flat. Completely flat. The only casualty of the entire operation was the car of the one man who gave the correct advice. Bought at the whale of a deal sale, destroyed by an actual whale the universe does not miss. Umenhofer told reporters, "My insurance company is never going to believe this." The state of Oregon cut him a check for the full $7,000 within 2 days, which for a government is teleportation speed. Meanwhile, back at the beach, remember the cleanup crew, the seagulls were gone. Every bird in the county heard the explosion and left. The blast that was supposed to feed them had scared them into a different zip code, and the whale, mostly still there, 1/2 ton of dynamite had mostly dug a big hole in the sand and thrown the rest of the whale around the neighborhood, so the highway crew got out their shovels and buried the remains by hand. The boring option, the one they rejected on day one. Now with a fine mist of whale on every surface in Florence. Afterward, reporters asked George Thornton how he felt it went. He said, quote, "It went just exactly right. The blast, he allowed, had dug a hole in the sand under the whale, but otherwise exactly right." A few months later, the Highway Division promoted him. That is a true fact. The man who exploded the whale onto the town got promoted. Government. His supervisor could not be reached for comment. Hunting. Paul Linman ended his news report with a line that deserves a museum. He said the blast blasted blubber beyond all believable bounds, and he predicted that next time the people in charge would remember not just what to do, but what not to do. He was right. In 1979, 41 sperm whales beached themselves in Oregon at once. 41 chances to use dynamite again. The state used 0 of them. They burned and buried every single whale. Learning happened. The story should have ended there. It did not. In 1990, the humor columnist Dave Barry saw the old news footage and wrote about it in the Miami Herald. The column got passed around. Then the footage hit the early internet, where it spread under the title, "The Far Side Comes to Life in Oregon." A local news segment from 1970 became one of the first viral videos in internet history. By 2006, one study counted 350 million views for a whale. That exploded in 1970. The State Transportation Department kept getting calls from confused reporters who thought it had just happened. Then, in 2020, for the 50th anniversary, the town of Florence held a public vote to name a new park. The people chose Exploding Whale Memorial Park. That is a real park. You can have a birthday party there. The TV station even remastered the original footage in 4K, so future generations can watch the blubber fall in high definition. For the rest of his career, Thornton maintained the operation had been a success that got unfair press coverage. The whale, meanwhile, remains the most famous thing ever to happen to Florence, Oregon. It has a park, a plaque, and an annual celebration. The morale is, when a man with military explosives training tells you your bomb is the wrong size, listen, especially if he's parked nearby. Subscribe. George was confident too.